اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم. تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. وسواء عليهم أنذرتم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشروا بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم من عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. وما أنزلنا على قوم من بعد من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين. إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون. يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون. ألم يروا كما أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون. وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون. وآية لهم الأرض الميتة وأحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون. وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمر وما عملت أيديهم أفلا يشكرون. سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون. وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون. والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم. والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم. لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون. وآية لهم أن حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أن نطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في السور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم أزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانة فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمر نقص في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأ أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم. سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
بر محمد و آل محمد صلی اللہ. بیمار جب کہ احمد مختار ہو گئے، دشمن زیادہ در پائے آزار ہو گئے، زہر ستم سے موت کے آثار ہو گئے، صدمے اٹھا کے جینے سے بیزار ہو گئے، صدمے اٹھا کے جینے سے بیزار ہو گئے، غل تھا جہاں سے نائب داور کا کوچ ہے، افسوس سوئے خلد پیامبر کا کوچ ہے، افسوس سوئے خلد پیامبر کا کوچ ہے، شفقت سے فاطمہ کو بلایا رسول نے، سمجھا کے اپنے پاس بٹھایا رسول نے، جب دامن بطول کو پایا رسول نے، بستر کے بدلے اس کو، بستر کے بدلے اس کو بچھایا رسول نے، سر رکھ کے اپنا زانوے دختر پس سو گئے، راوی کا ہے یہ قول کہ بے ہوش ہو گئے، راوی کا ہے یہ قول کہ بے ہوش ہو گئے، ہوش آیا تو بلایا حسن اور حسین کو، لپٹایا اپنے سینے سے ہر نور عین کو، نانا کے غم میں کھویا نواسوں نے چین کو، رو رو کے یہ سنایا شہ مشرقین کو افسوس آج داغے جدائی دکھاؤ گے. سنتے ہیں ہم یہ سب سے ہمیں چھوڑ جاؤ گے. سنتے ہیں ہم یہ سب سے ہمیں چھوڑ جاؤ گے. سر پیٹ پیٹ رونے لگی ہائے فاطمہ. بولی کہ کس طرح نہ علم کھائے فاطمہ. جو حال دل ہے کس سے وہ دوہرائے فاطمہ. افسوس اپنے باپ سے چھٹ جائے فاطمہ. افسوس اپنے باپ سے چھٹ جائے فاطمہ. اس غم سے آس ٹوٹ گئی دل ملول کی. آفت میں مبتلا ہوئی بیٹی رسول کی. آفت میں مبتلا ہوئی بیٹی رسول کی. رو رو حسن حسین یہ کہتے تھے بار بار. اب کون زانوں پہ بٹھا کر کرے گا پیار. نانا گلے لگاؤ نوا سے ہے بے قرار. رونے جنہیں نہ دیتے تھے اب ہیں وہ اشک بار. کیا کا غم و ملال نہ گھر دل میں کر گئے. جو ناز اٹھانے والے ہمارے تھے مر گئے. جو ناز اٹھانے والے ہمارے تھے مر گئے. رونے سے اہل بیت کے تھا حشر آشکار. دل و محمدہ کی صدا سے ہوئے فگار. گھر میں تو سب عزیز پیامبر تھے اشک بار. دروازے پر کھڑے ہوئے روتے تھے جانثار. دروازے پر کھڑے ہوئے روتے تھے جانثار. سینے بھرے تھے رنج سے ماتم کو ہاتھ تھے. جبریل اشک بار فرشتوں کے ساتھ تھے. جبریل اشک بار فرشتوں کے ساتھ تھے. میں شربہ پا کیا جو صغیر و کبیر نے سمجھایا ضبط کر کے جناب امیر نے. تدبیر غسل شاہ امم کی وزیر نے نہلایا اس کو عاشق رب قدیر نے، گو حال غم سے غیر تھا زوج بطول کا، کفنا کے خود جنازہ اٹھایا بطول کا، کفنا کے خود جنازہ اٹھایا رسول کا، کفنا کے خود جنازہ اٹھایا رسول کا، بیمار جب کہ احمد پر محمد وآل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم۔
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Our visiting speaker, Sheikh Abbas Ismail, respected elders, dear brothers and sisters in Iman, Assalamu alaikum, Jameel wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Surah Fatiha is requested for all marhumin listed on the screen, as well as all other marhumin. Surah Mubarak al-Fatiha. Dua Shfa Maris is requested for all those in need here and elsewhere, as well as those listed on the screen. Let us recite together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibu al-mustarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibu al-mustarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. Ya Allah. We're now about 20% short of our target for the Muharram and Safar Fund. Please consider making a donation and help us meet our goal, inshallah. At this time, let's invite our visiting speaker, Sheikh Abbas Ismail, to please come forward for tonight's Majlis. Wa Muhammad wa Muhammad salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، خاتم النبيين، شفيع المذنبين، رحمة للعالمين، مولانا وسيدنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرض، أرواحنا له الفداء، وعجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في قرآنه المجيد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. لقد جاءكم رسول من أنفسكم عزيز عليه ما عنتم حريص عليكم بالمؤمنين رؤوف رحيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Elders, brothers, sisters, Azizan, It's a pleasure to be amongst you again. Tonight is one of the saddest occasions for lovers of Ahlul Bayt. Tonight we can say one thing. Tonight we can say that every zarra, every atom, every particle, every neutron and electron, everything in this universe is azadar for Rasulullah. Why do we say this? How do we say this? Azizan, I want to make a few points tonight. I don't know if I'll have enough time to make them all, but I will try. Azizan, at the moment in our community, we are being bombarded from all sides. Once upon a time, we protected ourselves from the attacks of, let's say, for example, other religions. So all of our discourse was about Islam and Islamic aqaid. Then it became a situation where we were bombarded by other sects. So if you remember, go back 30, 40 years, every single majlis was about protecting the Shia identity, protecting the Shia aqaid. Today, afsos, sad afsos, we have our attacks from within our own mazhab people. Big, strange situation we have. One of the things is, for example, that all of these faza'il, all of these brilliant points about Ahlul Bayt, which you people keep speaking and saying, these are all made up, these are all ghulu, these are all extremists. This is nothing like this in Islam. We hear, for example, things like, you know what? Leave aside all these ahadith. Hadiths are weak. As if hadith is such a simple thing, as if it's one collection of a few pages, and we say, all hadiths are weak. If you study the ahadith literature, how it was compiled, when it was compiled, you'll realize this is the most ridiculous statement to say that all hadith are weak. We hear that all these fazilat and fazail that you guys keep banging on about Ahlul Bayt, there were this and that, this is all extremism. This is all wrong. You've made this up. Maulanas pull it out of their pockets to get wawas. This is what we hear. I'm telling you something. Tonight, every atom on this earth, in the sky, in the solar system, in the universe, in every galaxy, is azadar for Rasulullah. Because Rasulullah himself has said, أَوَّلُ مَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ نُورِي ثُمَّ خَلَقَ مِنْهُ كُلَّ خَيْرٍ. The first thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made was my nur. And from my nur, He then made everything. Allah, who is the Khaliq, who is the creator? Would anyone say that Rasulullah is the creator? No, not at all. Rasulullah is not the creator. Allah is the creator. Allah is Khaliq. Allah is the only independent being in this world. Rasulullah, Amirul Mu'mineen, me and you and everything else is dependent upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no independence. But He says, Allah created my nur first, then from that He created every good thing. Kulla khair. On one occasion, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, was in the mosque, and they had just finished Fajr namaz, and he was asked a question, and then he began to explain a few things. Listen to this hadith from Bihar. This is not from anyone's pocket. This is not from anyone's desire to be popular and impress people. We don't have time for that really. And we couldn't care less for that really. This is from authentic sources. Believe me, I have heard this hadith from senior ulama. Senior ulama means all the way to Ayatullah level. So it's not like, this is something that is doubtful or we shouldn't recite it. Please bear in mind, all of these things, they have their proofs and they have their backups. Anyway, Rasulullah was answering a question. He then begins to explain. Somehow within the conversation, he went on to the creation, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. He says, Walakin, however, khalaqana Allah. Allah created us. Who? He's referring to himself, Amirul Mu'mineen, Janabi Fatima, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein alayhimu salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. Khalaqana Allah. Allah created us. Nahnu, us only. حيث لا سماء مبنية, when there was no such thing as a sky. ولا أرض مدحية, no such thing as a earth. ولا عرش, there was no arsh. There was no arsh ilahi, arsh khuda. Wala jannah, heaven did not exist at that time. Wala nar, jahannam did not exist at that time. Kunna nusabbihuhu hina la tasbih. We were praising him, we were doing subhanallah and tasbih of Allah when no one even knew what tasbih was. We were praising him at that time. Wa nuqaddisuhu hina la taqdis. We were extolling his virtues, we were calling his virtues, we were singing his praises when no one even knew what is taqdees and what is extolling the virtues of Allah. فَلَمَّا أَرَادَ اللَّهِ, when Allah wished to now create other things, فَتَقَ نُورِ, he took my nur and he opened it, or he cracked it open. Somehow he opened my nur. What happens when you open a light source? The light goes everywhere, right? It spreads. He opened my nur. فَخَلَقَ مِنْهُ الْعَرْشِ, he created the arsh from my nur. The arsh of Allah created from the nur of Rasulullah. وَنُورِ مِن نُورِ اللَّهِ. If you want to know where my nur comes from, is this extremism? Listen carefully. If you want to know, he's saying in this, if you want to know where my nur comes from, nuri min nuril la. My nur comes from the nur of Allah. I'm not an independent being. I don't create things on my own. I don't have any power except for what power Allah gives me. Wa ana afdalu min al arsh. I am superior to the arsh of Allah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Then Rasulullah comes on to his favorite subject. What is his favorite subject? What is the thing that Rasulullah could not stop talking about throughout his life? Amirul Mu'mineen. Thumma fataka nur ibn Abi Talib. Then he opened the nur of the son of Abu Talib. Now what? He opened the nur of the son of Abu Talib. فَخَلَقَ مِنْهُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. From the nur of Ali alayhi salam, the angels were created. All of these angels. Who came first, Jibreel or Amirul Mu'mineen? Well, if you look at if your frame of view is so limited that you only see the few hundreds of thousands of years of this world, then you'll say, oh, Jibreel came to Amir al-Mu'mineen. But if you widen your view a little bit and you say, no, there was a world before this world and there'll be a world after this world, and I'm not just limiting myself to a few 100,000 years or a few tens of thousands of years, then Jibreel was created from the nur of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Jibreel? Who taught Jibreel? One of the ahadith we have is that Jibreel was sitting with Rasulullah. Amir al-Mu'mineen walked in. Jibreel stood up. Rasulullah says, do you know him? Jibreel says, how can I not know him when he has taught me? He is my ustad. How can I not stand for my teacher? فَنُورُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ مِن نُور ibn Abi Talib. So the nur of the malaika, the existence of the malaika and the angels of Allah is from the nur of Amir al-Mu'mineen. ثُمَّ فَتَقَ نُورَ ibnati Fatima. Then Allah took the nur of my daughter Fatima and He opened this nur. فَخَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. From the nur of Janabi Fatima, one of our aqidas is the nur of the samawat and the earth, the nur of the heavens and the earth, stems from the nur of Janabi Fatima. Here he explains why. فَخَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. فَنُورُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ مِن نُور ibnati Fatima. So the nur, the creation, the existence that you see of the heavens and the earth is from the barakat of the nur of my daughter Fatima. وَنُورُ فَاطِمَةَ مِن نُورِ اللَّهِ. Again, Rasulullah emphasizes this point. Don't think we're independent. We are not saying we are gods. We are not saying we are demigods. We are not saying we are minor gods. We are not saying we are gods under a god. We are not saying we are creators. We are not saying anything independent about ourselves. The nur of my daughter Fatima is from the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ثُمَّ فَتَكَ نُورَ الْحَسَنِ. Then he took the nur of Imam Hassan and he opened this nur. فَخَلَقَ مِنْهُ الشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرِ. When you see the moon, when you see the effects of the sun, when you feel the sun on your back, remember Imam Hassan. Imam Hassan's nur, Allah used this nur to create the sun and the moon. And then the same applies to Imam Hassan. The nur of Hassan comes from the nur of Allah. Hassan is superior to the sun and the moon. ثُمَّ فَتَكَ نُورَ الْحُسَيْنِ. Then he took the nur of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. فَخَلَقَ مِنْهُ الْجَنَّةِ. Heaven was made from the nur of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. وَالْحُورَ الْعِينِ. And the beings of heaven. فَنُورُ الْجَنَّةِ وَالْحُورِ الْعِينِ مِن نُورِ الْحُسَيْنِ. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So the light of heaven and the light of the inhabitants of heaven is from the nur of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. Wa nurul Hussein min nurillah. But remember, we're not saying we're gods, demigods, minor gods, independent beings. The nur of Hussein is from the nur of Allah. Tell me, where is the shirk here? I can't see the shirk. I can't see that we are worshipping anyone. I can see that what we are doing is we are describing the system of Allah. We are describing the system of Allah. Allah chose to use a particular way, a manner and a system. This is the system of Allah. Now, وَالْحُسَيْنُ أَفْضَلُ مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ وَالْحُورِ الْعِينِ. Therefore, Hussein is also superior to heaven and the inhabitants of heaven. Rasulullah in the Holy Quran has been described as Rahmatan lil Alameen, a mercy for everything and everyone. One of the aspects of his mercy is that from him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through him, with his nur, created everything. Who is the creator? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah is makhluk. Khaliq is God. He is the rahmat of the alameen. He is the mercy for all of the worlds. In another verse of the Holy Quran, we read, Allah says in Surah Tawbah, لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ. A prophet has come from yourselves, azizun alayhi ma anittum. It grieves him when you are distressed. Look at the amount of care, affection, compassion that Rasulullah had for us. It grieves him when you are distressed. You feel any pain, tamne kain dard hoy, tamne kain dukh hoy, believe me, tamara imam zamana na pehla mehsoos thai che. Before you feel it, your imam feels it. Before you cry over yourself, your imam feels sad for you. Azizun alayhi ma anittum. It grieves him when you are distressed. Khudaya, what kind of Ahlul Bayt have you given us? Before I feel grief over myself, my Imam Zaman feels grief for me. Azizun alayhi ma anittum, harisun alaykum. He cares deeply for you. He's very bothered about you. He won't leave you just like that. The Holy Prophet is invested in you. They say there was a Jewish youth. At the time of the Holy Prophet, there was a Jewish youth. As you know, the Holy Prophet had this habit. Whenever, for example, in any battle, someone would be captured, they wouldn't like to hold him. They would tell him, you teach, for example, 10 Muslims to read and write and we will free you. Aside from the battle, there was a Jewish youth who used to help the Muslims to learn to read and write. He remained a Jewish person. For a few days, Rasulullah says, where is that person? We have not seen him for a while. Is everything okay? Someone tells Rasulullah that he has been taken ill. He's not well. And the situation doesn't look good. Rasulullah says, let's go and visit him. They go to visit this Jewish young man. When they go into the house, they see that he is stretched out. He is in and out of consciousness. For a little bit, he's conscious, then he becomes unconscious. Then again, a little bit, he becomes conscious, then he becomes unconscious. Around him is his mom and his dad. His parents are around the bed. And they're also looking very worried. Rasulullah comes close to this youth. He waits for him to gain consciousness. When he gains consciousness, look at the care of Rasulullah. Look at the care The care is not in this world that we just give someone money, that we just help someone out, we help an old lady cross the road, we do someone shopping for them. Okay, that's fine. Care, true care is when you care about someone's hereafter. True care is when you care about someone's akhirat. Why is Imam Zaman always bothered about us and crying over us? For our akhirat mainly. Anyway, Rasulullah comes to the head of this young man and he whispers to him. He says, these may be your last few moments. Become a Muslim. This young man looks at his mother and father and he feels shy because they're Jewish. Now, how do you accept a new religion in front of your parents who are on the former religion? He feels shy and then he becomes unconscious again. After a little while, he becomes conscious again. Rasulullah says, become Muslim. And his father then says, the young boy's father then says, listen, son, don't worry about us. If you want to become a Muslim, we are not going to stop you. We won't mind. The youth begins to recite, La ilaha illallah. And then in his last breath on this earth, he recites, Wa Muhammadun Rasulullah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. How long was he a Muslim? 1 second, half a second, 2 seconds maybe. He breathes his last and he goes from this world. Rasulullah says to his parents, now you don't need to do anything. We will take care of everything. Leave his body to us. We will take him. We will give him ghusl. We will give him kafan. We will bury him. Leave him with us. Until the last moment of the life of a young Jewish person who simply helped the Muslims, Rasulullah is bothered. وَبِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَؤُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. In this verse, وَبِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ, especially for the believers, he is most kind and merciful to the believers. What prophet did we have? What deen do we have? What kind of religion do we have? Our Aimma, our Rasulullah, our Janab Fatima are so bothered about us. They are so much caring over us. The ulama say when you go for ziyarat of Aimma, you know how much shauq and how much love and how much keenness you feel to go to the ziyarat of Aimma, to go to the zari of Aimma. Believe me, more than that, they want you to come for their ziyarat. That's why you are going. Abba Abdullah, whoever went this year, may Allah accept their ziyarat. May He give us all tawfiq to go as much as possible year on year, insha'Allah. Abba Abdullah called you. Abba Abdullah wants to see you there. Abba Abdullah loves our presence there. We love Abba Abdullah. What are you talking about? They love us 100 million, billion times more. This is Ahlul Bayt. This is Ahle Muhammad. This is Rasulullah. The last Nabi that Allah sent. We were fortunate that we are in the Ummah of Rasulullah. We are in the Ummah of Amirul Mu'mineen. We are in the nation of these great people. Azizan, unfortunately, this is our way of looking at things. This is how the Shias look at things. But history has not been kind to the Holy Prophet. And again, we have to look at ourselves only for this. History, for example, if you look at the history books of the other sects of Islam and how they have treated the Holy Prophet, you'd be shocked. We don't like to talk about it much because we find it very disrespectful and we think, well, do people really need to know this? But because now these things are creeping into our own communities, I feel compelled to say a few of these things. For example, take the history of other sects regarding the first revelation that happened to the Holy Prophet. Have you read it? Do you know it? Have you seen it? Let me tell you. Apparently, according to them, this is what happened. Rasulullah was in the cave of Hira. He would go there from time to time. He was engaged in meditation. In his meditation, the angel Jibreel descended and revealed to him, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi. He revealed to him the first few verses of the Holy Quran. The Holy Prophet became terrified. The Holy Prophet was scared. The Holy Prophet didn't know what happened. The Holy Prophet felt traumatized. The Holy Prophet felt physically assaulted. Then he came out of the cave of Hira. He was walking down the mountain. He was so traumatized and so disturbed by what had happened, he was contemplating suicide. He was thinking, I should throw myself off the mountain. He didn't. He came down the mountain. He went to his home. He met his wife, Janabi Khadija. Janabi Khadija says to him, what happened? He described, this happened, this happened, this happened. Janabi Khadija says to him, we need to refer to my cousin Waraka ibn Nawfil. He will know what to do. Let's go to him. So the Holy Prophet, fully confused, not knowing what's going on, him and Bibi Khadija go to her cousin Waraka ibn Nawfil. No, Waraka says to him, I think this is the message of God. I think this was the great angel of God. I think he has made you into the prophet. You know what I say? I say, if that's the case, Waraka should have been the prophet and not our holy prophet. If he knows more about what's going on than even the holy prophet who received the revelation, well, Waraka should have been the prophet then. If we need Waraka to tell us all of these things, if the holy prophet of Islam needs someone who's the cousin of his wife, who was on Deen Hanif, we don't have anything against Waraka ibn Nawfil, but this history, I'm sorry, we cannot accept this. This is against the shan of Rasulullah. This is against the izzat of Rasulullah. This is an attack on the character of Rasulullah. What are you talking about? He has to be advised by someone that, no, really, you're the prophet, I'm telling you. And he was contemplating suicide and this and that. Shias believe, no. The holy angel Jibreel descended, gave the wahi to Rasulullah. He knew exactly what was going on. He knew what Jibreel was, what this message was, where it has come from. He understood it. And he fully was aware of this. Why? One of the proofs is what I just said. أَوَّلُ مَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ نُورِي. He was the first thing created. He has to be told by some stranger that you're really the prophet. He was the first thing to be. His Nisfe Nur, Amirul Mu'mineen, from his Nur the angels were created, and he has to be told that this was really an angel and don't worry and everything's fine. Now, downgrade the prophet, shatter him, do character assassination, cast doubts upon him, make people question his character, make people question his knowledge. Does he have ilm ghaib? Does he know this? How can he know that? How can all of these things be? Cast doubts, 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 doubts. And then what do you get? You get things like, people say, hadiths are weak, just the Quran. Don't accept these hadiths, they are weak. Just the Quran. You tell someone, this is one of the laws of Islam, for example, hijab. Quran mache? Dadi rakho bhai. Quran mache? Do this. Quran mache? Dekhar to Quran ma kya che? Well, e-logic pramane namaz pan Quran ma nathi. Agar e-logic levi hoy to namaz pan Quran ma nathi. This has a very dangerous repercussion on the community. Once we adopt this attitude that Quran is enough, we don't need a hadith, we have basically separated Quran from Ahlul Bayt. Rasulullah says, Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Inni tarikun feekumus thaqalain kitab Allah wa itrati. I am leaving behind not one thing. Quran is not enough for you. Quran needs its partner. I am leaving behind two things for you. Quran and my Ahlul Bayt. Lan tadillu ba'di. If you hold on to these two things, you will never go astray after me. If you hold on to these two things, not one thing, two things, you will not go astray after me. So then what is the logical conclusion we can come to? If you don't hold on to these two things, you will go astray after me. But the push is, Quran is sufficient. Hadiths are weak. These things are made up. Maulanas make these up. These are not true. These fazail can't be true. Why? What do you mean it can't be true? Are you limiting the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If Allah wants something to happen, why can it not happen? If Allah wants to keep Nabi Yunus alive in the belly of a whale, as per the Holy Quran, where it's not even physically possible to remain alive with all the fluids and acids and all of that in the belly, why can't He do this? If Allah wants to keep alive the Ashab-e-Kahf until today, and He wants them to keep living, and they will remain as a sign until the end of the world, and He Himself says in the Quran, نُقَلِّبُهُمْ bil-yamini wal-yasar. Subhanallah. He says, they are in the cave, they are asleep. Someone may think, what about bed sores? How will they, this and that? What if their body becomes injured through this long sleep? Allah says in the Holy Quran, I will even take care of them to the extent, نُقَلِّبُهُمْ bil-yamini wal-yasar. I am the one, I change them, I turn them to the right and the left every so often. If your Allah can do this, He can't do some of these fazail of Ahlul Bayt? He can't endow them with these kinds of things? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can show us the miracles in creation, how this world works, how every single thing in creation has its place, how these ecosystems function, how there's a ball of fire in the black sky, and through that ball of fire, this other smaller ball which is blue in color, which has water, and no one can explain where this water has come from, and it's spinning in a way that no one can quite explain or understand how it's spinning, and all of these different life forms and species are sustained on this earth. He can't do some of these fazail of Ahlul Bayt? I'm staggered sometimes, I don't understand. And we are sometimes so simple. We are so simple. Dharam ma bahut sada chhe, bahut simple chhe, that with a couple of sentences, someone sticks a camera in front of his face on YouTube, and we will start to question, oh, I am boilo havesu. I mean, seriously. If Bibi Fatima is the noor of the samawati and this earth, if she is the light of the heavens and the earth, if Allah can use the Ahlul Bayt to this extent, I don't understand, why are we so afraid? Tamne yaqeen nathi ke Imam Zamana tamaru dhyan rakse? Tamne yaqeen che ke nahi? Do you have faith and yaqeen and certain that Imam Zamana will look after his religion? Is there anything more powerful in this world than Imam Zaman? Have faith, be strong, don't worry. Be strong. We have all the answers, don't worry, don't get stressed. Just because someone speaks nicely, just because someone knows how to use words like this and that, it's okay. We have our Imam, we have our ulama. They have done the research, they have done the hard work, they have given us all the answers. So, coming now on to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. This whole trend of thought, Azizane Muhtaram, Sarvarane Muazzam, this whole trend of thought has its roots in history. You will have heard the Holy Prophet left this world on a Monday. The Thursday before that, there was a big incident in the house of Rasulullah. Raziyatu Yawmil Khamis. The tragedy, the calamity of Thursday. The hadith goes like this. Well, there are two versions. We're going to look at only what Bukhari says. Bukhari. He says that on this day, the Holy Prophet was very, very ill. He was struggling even to get up. He didn't have much strength in his body. He was in his home. People were around him. Some of his ashab, some of his Ahlul Bayt, they were all around him. He says to them, I ask you to bring me a pen and a paper, that I may write something for you, after which you will not go astray. A big commotion started. A big argument started. The primary person who objected was the second Khalifa, Umar. The primary person who objected, he said, I hate to use these words, but for your information. He says, the man is talking nonsense. Hasbuna kitabullah. Enough for us is the book of God. There was a big commotion. He was raising his voice. Others were raising their voices. Rasulullah says a few things. He says, number one, Qumu anni, leave me. Rasulullah, not one of the kindest person, the most merciful, the most compassionate person you can think of, who would speak nicely to each and every person. For him to use these words was a big thing. Leave my presence. Leave me. In today's language, get out. Because he says, it is not suitable to argue in my presence. This hurts the Prophet. So what does he say? He says, the book of God is enough for us. We don't need anything else. How does he get to the book of God is enough for us? How does he know what the Holy Prophet was going to write in the first place? Because the Holy Prophet used words very similar to the words used on Ghadir. In Ghadir, he used the similar words that he used on the calamity of Thursday. Bring me a pen and something to write so that you don't go astray after me. La tadillu ba'du. In Ghadir, it was lan tadillu ba'di. Very similar words. Umar says the book of God is enough for us. Separate, separate, separate. Book of God, Ahlul Bayt. Keep them separate. Then we can do what we want. Then we can act the way we want. The moment Ahlul Bayt come in the picture, everything comes back to its perfect equilibrium, the norm that Allah wanted. Rasulullah used to affect people by his words. He used to really influence them. People used to become in love with Islam, in love with Allah, in love with Quran through the words of Rasulullah. That stopped. Until the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, it began again. Show me one khutbah from the first Khalifa. Show me one khutbah from the second Khalifa. Show me one khutbah from the third Khalifa. We don't have them. Why? That skill wasn't there. Until Amir al-Mu'mineen came, this skill was lost with Rasulullah. Then Amir al-Mu'mineen brought it back again with his words. So this has a precedence in history. Umar says, the Quran is enough for us. The book of God is enough for us. Rasulullah says, leave my presence. Now, here, very interesting. Bukhari has narrated it in two ways. Where he narrates the words that were spoken, in other words, this man is speaking nonsense, na'udhu billah, he says, qalu, they said, without naming anybody. But when he narrates what Umar said, qala Umar, when he says, this is what Umar says, he says the following, inna nabi alayhi al-waja. The Prophet is in pain. Let's not bother him anymore. Is this faithful reporting? Is this the way the things should be reported? We say, you know what? This was all a ploy. This was a ploy to separate these two weighty, holy things. Keep the Quran on one side, we can do what we want. We can interpret it the way we want. We can draw conclusions from it. We can act the way we want. Once Ahlul Bayt come in the picture, then you'll have the justice of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Then you'll have the justice of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Then you'll have to abide by the rules of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Then when Amir al-Mu'mineen says that I will take back every stolen dirham and dinar which has been spent wrongfully from Baytul Mal, then we'll be in trouble. These are the repercussions. You want a corrupted religion, corrupted society, then we distance ourselves from Ahlul Bayt, na'udhu billah. You want a proper religion, a proper understanding of the Holy Quran, be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we must keep these two things together. Someone asked Zishan Haidar Jawadi marhum, Allama Zishan Haidar Jawadi. He said, Maulana, Dadi Quran mein kahan hai? Where is this thing about beard in the Holy Quran? He says, Dhari ke liye, for beard, if you want to understand beard, look at the face of Rasulullah. He is, the order comes from Allah, the method and implementation is with Rasulullah. You want to see proper Islam? Look at Rasulullah. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. We have given you the best example in Rasulullah. Azizan, to finish, don't panic. Don't worry too much about these things. We have, alhamdulillah, a lot of literature. A lot of hard work has been done over the centuries. By the way, Islam didn't start a couple of years ago. We have 1400 years of scholarship. People have done a lot of hard work on this. They've given us something extremely, extremely valuable and powerful. You want the daleels, you want the proofs, inshallah, they are there. You want to spend a little bit of time thinking about things, then they are there. But if you want, in the 30 seconds it takes to break your faith, then in 30 seconds we can give you a magic pill and make your faith again, that can't happen. Then it needs a bit of hard work. It needs you to do some hard work. You may have to read a bit. You may have to think a bit. If you're looking for sound bites, then this is not the place. Inshallah, Allah give us tawfiq. We understand our religion properly. We value our Ahlul Bayt. We are counted as part of the community of our beloved Prophet. That He forgives our sins. He increases our rizq. Those of us who are suffering from jismani and ruhani illnesses, that He cures those illnesses. He gives our elders a long life. He gives our ulama a long life. He gives us the tawfiq to do ziyarat of Aimma alayhimu salam, especially Imam Zaman. He gives a long life to Ayatollah Sistani. He gives a long life to all of the ulama working hard for Islam. Azizan, tonight is the wafat of Rasulullah. When Rasulullah was in his last moments, in the month or so before he leaves this world, they say that he used to go to Jannatul Baqi very often. And he would visit the graves of those friends and companions who had left this world before him. In these last few days, he had to face a lot of things. He had to face people betraying him. He had to face people being rude to him. He had to face people saying the kinds of things that I've quoted earlier. This would hurt him. He has nurtured and cared for this ummah. In his final moments, they say that Janab Fatima comes to her father. Janab Fatima comes and she begins to cry. The tears of Fatima begin to flow and they fall on the Holy Prophet himself. The Holy Prophet looks at his daughter. He says to her, "Why do you cry?" She says, "Baba, you are leaving us. I cry for the separation from you." Then he says to her, "Come close." She came close. He whispered something in her ear. She began to smile. Later, someone asked her, "Bibi, what did your father whisper to you that made you smile?" She says, "He told me that from our family, I will be the first one to meet him. I'll be going next to meet my father." In his final moments, his head is on the lap of Amirul Mu'mineen. Amirul Mu'mineen says that when the ruh left the body of the Holy Prophet, I even felt this ruh leaving the body. That's how close I was. Now, the situation is this. Where this great man should have had what we may call a state funeral, with hundreds and thousands of people there were only a handful of people. Everyone left the janazah of Rasulullah. Rasulullah was buried with only a few people around him. Then we remember one of the sayings of Rasulullah. Rasulullah says that when any beloved one dies from a household, leave that household alone. Don't give them too much trouble. Send them food for 3 days. Look after them. Don't make them grieve more. But the reality was, that the attacks on the Ahlul Bayt after the death of Rasulullah only increased. Janab Fatima was beaten in the streets of Medina. Fadak was taken away from her. The right of Amirul Mu'mineen was snatched from him. The door of Fatima was set alight. That protective shadow of Rasulullah had gone now from Ahlul Bayt. If the door here is set on light, if the door here in Medina is set alight, there is another door being set alight also in Karbala. All of these events are linked. Janab Fatima's house is put on fire. Sham-e Ghariba, her daughter Bibi Zainab's house is put on fire. If here Janab Fatima is being buried with very few people, Janab Sakina in Sham is being buried by very few people. If here Ali is burying Fatima, there Ali Zainul Abidin is burying Sakina. Rasulullah's funeral, very few people. Amirul Mu'mineen's funeral, very few people. Janab Fatima's funeral, very few people. Imam Hassan's funeral, arrows were fired into the janazah. But we reserve all of our grief for the most tragic of them all. This was Karbala. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he fell from the horse, when the head was severed and raised upon the spear, then they say that the Ahlul Bayt after that incident went back into the tent. The women heard a noise. They said to one another, what is happening? Are they breaking glass outside? When Janab Zainab looked, she came back and she reported, this is not glass they are breaking. These are the bones of Aba Abdullah on which the hooves of the horses are trampling. Aba Abdullah, for 2 days he lay in the sun. Or by the miracle of Imamat, Imam Zainul Abidin comes to Karbala. He's meant to be in Kufa, but by the miracle of Imamat, he comes to Karbala. When he sees that the bodies have not been buried, the Bani Asad tribe were there. He asked them, "Oh Bani Asad, did we not have a deal with you? We had asked you, you are to bury us after we are killed." Bani Asad says, "Mawla, we don't know where to bury them. There are no heads on the bodies. We cannot identify who is who." Imam Zainul Abidin says, "Allow me, I will guide you." He takes them, he makes them dig a grave. This is the Ganje Shuhada. When they dig the grave of Ganje Shuhada, he says, put most of the bodies into this grave. And then he says, now we must dig a separate grave. They said, a separate grave, Mawla, for whom? He said, for Habib ibn Mazahir. Habib ibn Mazahir was my father's friend. He deserves a separate grave. They dug a separate grave for Habib ibn Mazahir. Then Imam began to walk. He said, only a few of you can come with me. Now we bury one person whom only I can bury and a few of those with me. Before they reached this body, Imam started to bend down and pick up things from the floor of Karbala. They said, Mawla, what do you pick up? He said, look what I have. He shows them what is in his hands. These were the fingers of Aba Abdullah. They said, Mawla, how did the fingers come here? He says, one person came during the looting of the tents. He couldn't find anything to loot. He saw that on my father's hand there was a ring. When he went to take the ring wouldn't come off. He took out his dagger and he cut all of the fingers of my father to get to this one ring. They buried Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Then Mawla Sajjad begins to walk towards the Darya, towards the river of Furat. They said, Mawla, now who? Now what? He says, there is one more shaheed we have to bury. They said, Mawla, who is it? When they reached the body, when they would pick up the body from the right side, the left side would fall down. When they picked up the body from the left side, the right side fell down. Mawla Imam Zainul Abidin looks at the sky and says, Assalamu alayka ya Qamar Bani Hashim. Oh, my uncle Abbas, we are here now to bury you. Allah la'natullahi al-qawmi al-zalimin. Wa sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalibin yanqalibun. Matame Hussein.
उठा रहे हैं जनाज़ा रसूल का है दर
رسول کا دو فاطمہ یتیم کو پرسا رسول کا حیدر اٹھا رہے ہیں جنازہ رسول کا بے حال ہے رسول کی دکھتے حسینیوں بے حال ہے رسول کی دکھتے حسینیوں دو فاطمہ یتیم کو پرسا رسول کا جاتے ہو چھوڑ کر ہمیں اے نانا جاں کہاں جاتے ہو چھوڑ کر ہمیں اے نانا جاں کہاں کہتا ہے رو کے چھوٹا نواسا رسول کا سر کو جھکائے روتی ہے بابا کی سوگوار سر کو جھکائے روتی ہے بابا کی سوگوار زہرا کی موت ہو گئی مرنا رسول کا رونا وہ سیدہ کا وہ کہنا حسین کا رونا وہ سیدہ کا وہ کہنا حسین کا اماں پتہ بتائیے نا رسول کا ہے وا محمد کے صدا ہر طرف بلند ہے وا محمد کے صدا ہر طرف بلند روتا ہے سارا کنبہ وہ پیارے رسول کا حیدر لٹا رہے ہیں لحد میں رسول کو حیدر لٹا رہے ہیں لحد میں رسول کو سر پیٹتا ہے قبر پہ کنبہ رسول کا بے حال ہے رسول کی دکھتے حسینیوں بے حال ہے رسول کی دکھتے حسینیوں دو فاطمہ یتیم کو پرسا رسول کا جاتے ہو چھوڑ کر ہمیں اے نانا جاں کہاں جاتے ہو چھوڑ کر ہمیں اے نانا جاں کہاں کہتا ہے رو کے چھوٹا نواسا رسول کا سر کو جھکائے روتی ہے بابا کی سوگوار سر کو جھکائے روتی ہے بابا کی سوگوار زہرا की मौत हो गई मरना रसूल का, हैदर उठा रहे हैं जनाज़ा रसूल का, हैदर उठा रहे हैं जनाज़ा रसूल का। दो फातिमा यतीम को पुरसा रसूल का, हैदर उठा रहे हैं जनाज़ा रसूल का।
करती है ज़हरा बुका बाबा रसूल खुदा,
करती है ज़हरा बुका बाबा रसूल खुदा, करती है ज़हरा बुका बाबा रसूल खुदा, करती है ज़हरा बुका बाबा रसूल खुदा, करती है ज़हरा बुका बाबा रसूल खुदा, करती है ज़हरा बुका बाबा रसूल खुदा, करती है ज़हरा बुका बाबा रसूल खुदा, करती है ज़हरा बुका बाबा रसूल खुदा। आह ये क्या हो गया बाबा रसूल खुदा, करती है ज़हरा बुका बाबा रसूल खुदा, करती है ज़हरा बुका बाबा रसूल खुदा। रोते हैं जिन्नो मलक वीरा मदीना हुआ, रोते हैं जिन्नो मलक वीरा मदीना हुआ, चल बसे सुए जिना बाबा रसूल खुदा, करती है ज़हरा बुका बाबा रसूल खुदा, करती है ज़हरा बुका बाबा रसूल खुदा। लेगा खबर कौन अब दुख में हमारी भला, लेगा खबर कौन अब दुख में हमारी भला, हाय यतीम हो गई बाबा रसूल खुदा, करती है ज़हरा बुका बाबा रसूल खुदा, करती है ज़हरा बुका बाबा रसूल खुदा। रोती है ज़ैनब खरी सर भी है उसका खुला, रोती है ज़ैनब खरी सर भी है उसका खुला, मुँह से बोलो ज़रा बाबा रसूल खुदा, करती है ज़हरा बुका बाबा रसूल खुदा, करती है ज़हरा बुका बाबा रसूल खुदा, करती है ज़हरा बुका बाबा रसूल खुदा।
बेवारिसी हो या बेरिदाई दुनिया में तेरा मातम रहेगा, ज़ैनब का तुझसे वादा है भाई, दुनिया में तेरा मातम रहेगा, ज़ैनब का तुझसे वादा है भाई, दुनिया में तेरा मातम रहेगा, ज़ैनब का तुझसे वादा है भाई, दुनिया में तेरा मातम रहेगा, ज़ैनब का तुझसे वादा है भाई, दुनिया में तेरा मातम रहेगा, ज़ैनब का तुझसे वादा है भाई, दुनिया में तेरा मातम रहेगा। बेवारिसी हो या बेरिदाई, बेवारिसी हो या बेरिदाई, दुनिया में तेरा मातम रहेगा, ज़ैनब का तुझसे वादा है भाई, दुनिया में तेरा मातम रहेगा, ज़ैनब का तुझसे वादा है भाई, दुनिया में तेरा मातम रहेगा, ज़ैनब का तुझसे वादा है भाई, दुनिया में तेरा मातम रहेगा। परचम उठाकर गाजी का अपने पूरे करूंगी मैं तेरे वादे, परचम उठाकर गाजी का अपने पूरे करूंगी मैं तेरे वादे, पूरे करूंगी
گی میں تیرے وعدے بابا کریں گے مشکل کشائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا پیغام تیرا مٹنے نہ دوں گی پیاسی رہوں گی پیدل چلوں گی پیغام تیرا مٹنے نہ دوں گی پیاسی رہوں گی پیدل چلوں گی پیاسی رہوں گی پیدل چلوں گی لڑتی رہوں گی تنہا لڑائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے ماشاءاللہ جیو جیو دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا بیٹوں کا ماتم اس دن کروں گی چہلم تمہارا جب کر چکوں گی بیٹوں کا ماتم اس دن کروں گی چہلم تمہارا جب کر چکوں گی چہلم تمہارا جب کر چکوں گی میں نے یہی ہے منت اٹھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا چادر کے بدلے سر لوں گی اس کا مجلس کی خاطر گر لوں گی اس کا چادر کے بدلے سر لوں گی اس کا مجلس کی خاطر گر لوں گی اس کا مجلس کی خاطر گر لوں گی اس کا نسل یزیدی دے گی دعائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی ماشاءاللہ جیو جیو ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا ہر گھر میں ہوگا اب تیرا ماتم ہر روز ہوگا مثل محرم ہر گھر میں ہوگا اب تیرا ماتم ہر روز ہوگا مثل محرم ہر روز ہوگا مثل محرم دیکھے گی اب تو ساری خدائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا تابوت تیرا غازی کا پرچم اٹھتے رہیں گے دنیا میں ہر دم تابوت تیرا غازی کا پرچم اٹھتے رہیں گے دنیا میں ہر دم اٹھتے رہیں گے دنیا میں ہر دم میں نے قسم ہے زہرا کی کھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا
آنسو زہرا کی یتیمی پہ بہاؤ لوگو آنسو زہرا کی یتیمی پہ بہاؤ محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو،
آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، ساری دنیا کو وفاداری،
ساری دنیا کو وفاداری سکھاؤ لوگو،
آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو،
جس عقیدت سے بپا کرتے ہو میلاد نبی،
جس عقیدت سے بپا کرتے ہو میلاد نبی،
فرش غم سے محمد کا،
فرش غم سے محمد کا بچھاؤ لوگو،
آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو،
یہ صفِ غم ہے محمد کی یہاں فرق نہیں،
یہ صفِ غم ہے محمد کی یہاں فرق نہیں،
ہاں اسی صف پہ زمانے کو،
ہاں اسی صف پہ زمانے کو بلاؤ لوگو،
آؤ
تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، آؤ تابوت محمد کا
اٹھاؤ لوگو،
گھر میں ہے فاطمہ زہرا کے اندھیرا چھایا،
گھر میں ہے فاطمہ زہرا کے اندھیرا چھایا،
آج کی رات چراغوں کو،
آج کی رات چراغوں کو بجھاؤ لوگو،
آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو،
خاک پتھر بھی جو امت کو دعا دیتے رہے،
خاک پتھر بھی جو امت کو دعا دیتے رہے،
ایسے محسن کا نہ احسان،
ایسے محسن کا نہ احسان بلاؤ لوگو،
آؤ تابوت
محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، اپنے غم بھول کے دیتی ہے خدیجہ یہ صدا،
اپنے غم بھول کے دیتی ہے خدیجہ یہ صدا،
آنسو زہرا کی یتیمی پہ،
آنسو زہرا کی یتیمی پہ بہاؤ لوگو،
آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو، آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو،
غم میں مظلوم کے رونا ہے نبی کی سننا،
غم میں مظلوم کے رونا ہے
نبی کی سنت.
یہ حقیقت نہ زمانے سے،
یہ حقیقت نہ زمانے سے چھپاؤ لوگو.
آؤ تابوت
محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو. آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو. کیوں ہو خاموش بقیہ کے اجڑ جانے پر؟
کیوں ہو خاموش بقیہ کے اجڑ جانے پر؟
اپنے سرکار کو ایسے نہ،
اپنے سرکار کو ایسے نہ رلاؤ لوگو.
آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو. آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو.
اپنے بابا کی جدائی میں جو چھپ کر روئی،
اپنے بابا کی جدائی میں جو چھپ کر روئی.
دل اسی فاطمہ زہرا کا،
دل اسی فاطمہ زہرا کا بڑھاؤ لوگو.
آؤ
تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو. آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو. بعد بابا کے جسے حق نہ ملا دنیا سے،
بعد بابا کے جسے حق نہ ملا دنیا سے،
اس کے حق کے لیے آواز،
اس کے حق کے لیے آواز اٹھاؤ لوگو.
آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو. آؤ تابوت محمد کا اٹھاؤ لوگو. سورۃ الفاتحہ.
السلام علیکم ابا عبداللہ، السلام علیکم ابن رسول اللہ، السلام علیکم ابن امیر المؤمنین وابن سید الوسیین، السلام علیکم ابن فاطمہ الزہرا سیدۃ النساء العالمین، السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکم یا مولا یا غریب الغرباء سلطان ابو الحسن مولانا علی ابن موسیٰ الرضا، کن شفیعنا و شفیع والدینا فی یوم الجزاء ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکم یا مولانا یا صاحب العصر والزمان، الامان الامان الامان. السلام علیکم یا شریک القرآن، السلام علیکم یا کعبۃ الایمان، السلام علیکم یا امام الانس والجان ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد.